And we are back, and we are jumping right into our first conversation, and we are going to be learning all about the European Union and Latin America and the Caribbean Foundation. And joining us for this discussion is Ms. Paula Amadei, who is the former European Union Ambassador to Belize and is currently the Executive Director of the EU Latin America and Caribbean Foundation. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you to you for offering me this opportunity to come back to Open Your Eyes. Some of your viewers can still remember me from the time I used to come regularly to Belize. I was a EU ambassador to Belize from 2012 to 2016. But during 4 years I didn't come back, and this is my first mission to Belize in my new capacity as executive director of this new organization. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, we're very pleased to have you. How does it feel to be back after 4 years?
Oh, it's just coming back home.
Yes.
First, there are a lot of known faces in offices, and I find always pleasant to be here in Belize City facing the Caribbean Sea.
Oh, yes.
And with the nice breeze of the sea. So it's very good to be back.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you here. So we are speaking about the EU-LAC Foundation today. So maybe for our viewers, you can sort of explain to us what the foundation is and how it came about.
Yeah. The foundation, EULAC Foundation, where EU stands for European Union, LAC for Latin American Caribbean, was created back in 2010. And it was a decision of the head of state and government of the 61 countries and of the European Union. So it was a major decision. 2011, the foundation was established in Hamburg, Germany, where we have our headquarters. Since then, the foundation has been transformed into an international organization. We are probably the youngest international organization. We officially became one on 17 May 2019. And we are probably the smallest, or one of the smallest, since we have a very small staff of 9 people. Belize, it's indeed a member, a full member, and something that I think will be interesting for your viewers, it's the fact that Belize was the first country in Latin America and the Caribbean to sign and ratify the constitutive agreement of the foundation. So it was trailblazing for the other. The objective of the foundation is to strengthen and develop the connection between the two regions, and in particular to involve in the relation civil society in all its forms. For that reason, our mandate is to incorporate in the process of the bi-regional dialogue civil society. We work together with university and university association, for instance, Universities Caribbean. We work together with Chamber of Commerce or organization of businesses. We work together with NGOs of different kind, and we organize initiatives that complement the activities of our member states in this area. Maybe it's useful to make a few concrete examples for your viewers. 2018, the ministers of foreign affairs of the 61 countries and of the European Union met and decided that they wanted to develop initiative in the cultural sphere, to develop activities involving the countries of the two regions in the protection of the cultural heritage or in the development of the culture and creative industry, or, and that's also a very interesting part, to see the role that cultural institutions in the two regions could work together to promote common values, to promote peace, and to raise awareness on global concern, for instance, climate change.
Yes, for sure.
Based on this, the foundation organized two gatherings last year, one dedicated to experts and cultural managers from across the two regions. And in the case of Belize, there was a representative of the National Institute for Culture. And then a second meeting where cultural expert and manager met together with representative of the ministries of culture. And the objective of these two meetings was sort of to prepare the ground to identify which could be these common initiatives involving all countries. And the idea was to have a discussion with the people dealing with culture on a daily basis to see which proposal they would have, and then test this proposal with the government representative.
Okay, well.
And also in the last meeting for government, again, there was a representative from Belize. We have paid particular attention to have the voices of smaller countries and of countries in the Caribbean heard in the different fora.
All right. And I'm sure like a lot of people are probably wondering how this improved relationship through the foundation can impact the future relations between all of the countries, states.
Indeed, there is a political dialogue going on, but we know as well that sometimes political dialogue at high level might be hampered by specific situation, and this has been the case now in the dialogue between EU, Latin America, and the Caribbean. However, what we have seen as well, that dialogue at technical level and dialogue of civil society, it's a dialogue that can continue independently from what might be situation affecting government discussion. And we think that there is a lot of value added in allowing organization of civil societies having contact at bi-regional level, exchanging good practices, establishing connection, and that these at the end can also improve the dialogue of government. It's complementary to the dialogue of government, but it can also be give an additional impulse to the dialogue between governments. And it brings to the table subjects that possibly are not on the priority list of government, but they are relevant for citizens. One example for few years now, we have been organizing meeting of youth from the two regions. The last meeting we organized was dedicated to youth and volunteering. It's an area where youth participate in both of our region. There are a lot of organizations channeling the efforts of youth at national level, but also internationally. And we came to the conclusion that the connection between these different organizations could improve also the way these efforts can be channeled and can be brought to fruition to society. For instance, to see which experiences exist to recognize volunteer works by youth in their CV. A lot of students hand their studies and they don't have a so-called practical experience because they haven't had yet the possibility to work formally. So the fact that they can bring the attention to their efforts as volunteer can give them an advantage in the labor market. And it's something that should be encouraged and should be valued. We hear a lot about youth not participating, youth being apathetic towards development, but I think there is sufficient evidence to the contrary. And our intention now for 2020 is to organize a meeting of volunteering organizations, particularly those as regional or sub-regional level, to see if we can favor the creation of a network of volunteering organizations across the two regions, and how we can favor the exchange of good practices among them.
All right. And you mentioned earlier that the foundation is somewhat young, and it's also the staff is somewhat small. So how easy or difficult is it to put together projects to facilitate or further the objectives of the foundation?
The way we work, and it's not just out of necessity, but it's a conviction of the foundation, we work with other organizations. We seek synergies with other organizations that have similar objective or with whom we share the similar objective. For instance, a couple of weeks ago, we were in the island of Antigua talking about migrants policies, how government across the two regions accommodates the needs of their own migrants, how they help them maintaining the connection to the home country. And for this particular event, we had the support of the University of the West Indies, of the organization Universities Caribbean, and of the German Institute for Global and Area Studies, GIGA. So pulling together all these resources together with the support of the government of Antigua and Barbuda allowed us to develop this activity. So that's something we do for all our initiatives. And we are not looking for a monopoly on bi-regional relation. To the contrary, our objective is to create a very solid network of stakeholders, government and non-government, cooperating together. If you go to the website of the foundation, it's easy to find. It's called EULACfoundation.org. There you can see, for instance, that we have a database called Mapeo, where organizations that have an interest to cooperate with the other region can register. It doesn't imply any cost. You register there, and it's a database with a lot of search. So it's a way to make more visible your activities and your work. Something else we do, we favor research, bringing together the perspective of the two regions. So I brought you here this pen, and here you have an UBS key with all our 40-something publications. And for the public, they can find this publication and they can download them for free from our website. And they are both in English and Spanish, so they can come handy also for the public here in Belize. And they cover different aspects. For instance, we have been writing about trade, we have been writing about instrument of protection of democracy, about access to the labor market, about vocational training. Our next publication that it's currently in preparation will be dedicated to the green bonds market, those financial instruments for the funding of investment to mitigate or adapt to climate change. Therefore, there are different areas we cover, and the idea is to favor more bi-regional perspective on subject and not having just the perspective of one region, but also through this document to provide scientific support to the dialogue between government and civil society.
All right. And since you mentioned trade, I think whenever anybody hears about international organizations or relations, that's automatically the first thing they think: trade, investment. What are some of the ways in which the foundation facilitates that sort of activity?
I would be over-ambitious, especially taking into account that there are major organizations specialized in promoting trade and supporting trade, to say that this is an area where the foundation can have a major impact. Nevertheless, if you go to the library of the foundation, you will find, for instance, that we have published an atlas of industrial clusters. So it's covering at the moment 10 countries in Latin America, and allows you to see for those countries where there are concentration of specific industries. So it's a way internationally also to make investor more aware of concentration of small and medium-sized enterprises, and to look in a better way to the existing market and investment opportunities that it would otherwise be the case. We have also tried constantly to favor more connection among small and medium-sized enterprises. For instance, favoring also exchange of experience between industrial clusters. So it's not necessarily the magic solution, also because we all know the small and medium-sized enterprises participate only very marginally to international trade. At the same time, for a small and medium-sized enterprise, the fact of being exposed to other experiences can make a tremendous difference in deciding to launch itself in the international market and explore new market niche. So we hope that with this initiative we can make a difference, and indeed there we seek the cooperation of other programs and projects or institutions. For instance, 2 years ago we organized a exploratory mission from enterprises, from businesses, from Baltic country, from Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia, to Costa Rica and to Chile to explore possibility of cooperation with businesses from those countries in the area of the industry, in the area of the information and communication technology. So there are a few examples. As I say, not magic bullets, but a way to contribute to strengthen also in this area more cooperation.
All right. And of course, the foundation itself, the work is very multifaceted in terms of its objectives. But are there any particular areas of focus that the foundation is looking at developing perhaps in 2020 and beyond?
Yeah. Indeed, we have focused on certain areas that have been decided in agreement with our member states. From the very beginning, one area of cooperation was academic cooperation. It's very relevant for Europe, very relevant for Latin America and the Caribbean. And there, what we have managed is to convene a dialogue between academic organizations in Latin America and the Caribbean and in Europe to identify objective and instrument and possible project to make, to realize this long-term project of a common area of higher education. Now, it sees very abstract, but if you have been a student trying to go to a third country and then coming back, you will realize that sometimes it's difficult to have your studies recognized in your country of origin, or vice versa, to have the study of your country of origin recognized in third countries. The objective of creating a common area of higher education between the two regions is to facilitate the mobility of students and academics between the two regions. The motto of universities in this century is internationalization. Internationalization of your program, internationalization of your faculty, internationalization of the curricula of your students. So the possibility for students to spend a semester in a different university in another member state and coming back to Belize and having the credit of this semester recognized, it's a contribution to internationalization. To have more comparable standards among universities in the two regions would allow also to raise collectively our standards on education. We have to take into account that especially in Latin America and the Caribbean, a majority of students now in university are going to university as first one in their families. So these represent a major ticket to social improvement. But in order for this to be effective, we need also to secure that the higher education is a quality education, and that the standards that we promote are standards that are internationally accepted. And that is true for all the countries. We have sometimes seen the proliferation of what in some countries, I don't know if that's the term used in Belize, it's called garage university. So there are not university of the standard of the University of Belize. They are universities that are just created in order to capture resources, but without providing quality education. And we need to avoid that people, families enroll their children in such university and then to discover that the title they have received, it's not a title that it's valued in the labor market because it's not supported by a solid organization.
Yeah. And what ways do you see it in the future impacting, you spoke about culture earlier, so you know, looking forward, I suppose, what ways do you think the foundation will impact the cultural relations in between the, you know, the region, the two regions, sorry.
Yeah. I think the two regions have common cultural heritage, or part of it as common cultural heritage. And there is a great demand from cultural expert and manager of the two regions to be able to work more together, to exchange experiences, to be able to spend short-term sort of fellowship periods in museums in the other region to exchange experience. There is, for instance, a very interesting suggestion coming from the two meetings we have organized to have a sort of curator or conservators without borders, allowing a group of conservators of the two regions to come together and intervene in a cultural institution that otherwise I couldn't afford to have such a specialist on a permanent basis. But they could, for instance, help in creating an exhibition or in the restoration of specific item. Another very interesting suggestion that I would hope we can realize is to develop bi-regional cultural roots. Here in this continent there are already cultural roots dedicated to specific products, for instance rum or coffee or cocoa, or the Inca path across several countries. And in Europe, the Council of Europe have developed a network of cultural roots. And it's a different way to approach tourism and to approach the knowledge of the country. Typically, these routes are traversing different countries, so they create people-to-people connection in an unconventional way, and I think this can also contribute to the final goal of promoting peace and better understanding among people. So I hope some of these suggestions can be implemented in the ground. During my stay here in Belize, I will meet a representative of government. I will also have a meeting at the University of Belize with its president. And I hope we can see also a larger participation from Belizean institutions and individuals in our activities. I would just like to take the opportunity to mention a program that might be of interest for your viewers. I say the foundation is a very small organization. Our work is also supported by interns that rotate in our headquarters in Hamburg. So every 3 months we receive 3 to 4 interns from across the 61 countries. And so far we have had over 80 young people coming to work with us during a short period. And we would like to see application coming from Belize. There might have been application in the past, but I don't remember any. But definitely we had never had an intern coming from Belize, while we have had from other countries in the Caribbean. And therefore, today here and tomorrow also, when I will be at the University of Belize, I will make a call to see application coming from Belize. It's a very interesting experience. We request or we ask for our interns to be bilingual, Spanish and English, and I know that several students here in Belize comply with this condition already. And it's a good experience because you are in a small organization, so you are involved in all the steps of the process. So it's a good way if you are interested in an international career, in a career. Also in communication, we always need interns also with a passion for communication to start at the foundation.
And if any of our viewers wanted to apply, where should they look?
Again, the website, EULACfoundation.org, existing both in Spanish and English. You can find all the information. There is a part called Opportunities, and there you will find the information on the internship. But also, for instance, for call for proposals. Once a year, we publish, it's just an example, we publish several call for proposal every year, but one example, every year we publish a call for proposal to co-financing of events, seminar, forum, meeting, with bi-regional content, and with bi-regional participants. So again, we were checking, we have never received an application from an organization in Belize, and we would salute for the next call for co-financing of events that will be launched toward the end of this year, to see application from Belize as well.
All right. So you heard that. If you are interested in applying for one of these positions, please visit their website. And Paula, we want to thank you for coming into our show again and sharing all of this information about the foundation. It was a pleasure having you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me. And just a remark, I'm very pleased to see, after 4 years that I wasn't coming, the awareness-raising campaign against single-use plastic.
Yes.
And I think that's a great step, and I hope the public follow this campaign and take action. Thank you.
Thank you too. Once again, Paula Amadei is the Executive Director of the EU-LAC Foundation, and as you may know her, a former ambassador for the EU to Belize. Coming in to share all of this information about the foundation and the work that it does. Now, we are going to take our break right now, and when we come back, we are going to be joined by the Belize School Counselors Association, and they're going to be telling us all about the School Counselors Association Awareness Week. So please stay tuned. We will be right back.